Using consciousness to practice is evil. The unexpected discovery of monk Thich Thanh Tien shocked the practitioners, Buddhist monks and nuns, and awakened the wise and helped them practice and attain enlightenment from 1 month to 12 months. Attain enlightenment in this life. Introduction. 1. What is a sage? They are true practitioners, determined to renounce worldly fame and wealth, but because they have not had the chance to meet a wise teacher, they have not yet understood the Buddha's teachings. Therefore, they have fallen into heretical teachings without knowing it. But when they awaken, they know that they have been practicing wrongly, but do not know the way to free themselves from the trap. 2. For easy understanding, just like in society, there are many people who live in debauchery, smoking, gambling, prostitution. They have been drawn into infatuation. There are also people who have awakened, who know that living like that is wrong, but are already addicted, unable to escape, leave it to fate, come what may. Fortunately, many benefactors and compassionate people came forward to help. They called on and cooperated with the government to launch a campaign to eliminate social evils, helping them escape the siege and return to a civilized and cultural life, enhancing the dignity of a person worth living. 3. To make it easier to understand, it's like humans are addicted. Just like maggots crawling around in a pile of dung. Just like animals, only knowing how to eat, sleep, make love and go to the toilet, there are still many people who realize that living like that is wrong. Fortunately, thanks to knowing the Buddha's teachings through the Four Noble Truths, however, not having the chance to meet a wise teacher, therefore not understanding the Buddha's teachings, so practicing can only escape fame and profit, and still have to endure birth, aging, sickness, and death, not knowing what to do, because still attached to satisfy greed for knowledge. 4. How fortunate are those who were born in the same era as Arahant Thich Thong Lac. The Venerable Thich Thong Lac stayed on earth to enlighten practitioners, Buddhist monks and nuns, and the Vietnamese people in the Vietnamese language, helping everyone clearly understand the original teachings of the Buddha. Help all enlightened people have the opportunity to practice and become masters of birth, aging, sickness, death and escape rebirth as a suffering human being. 5. Even more fortunate, there was Bhikkhu Thich Thanh Tien, who explained in detail and clearly, helping the common people understand the teachings of the Venerable Elder. At the same time, Master Thanh Tien also guides the practice of right intention and 6 basic methods. To be ready and in harmony with the teachings of Arahant Thich Thong Lac, so that we can all progress towards attaining the truth, liberating our lives from suffering. With you, dear sages, I am a fortunate person who has understood correctly and practiced according to the correct interpretation of the original Buddha's teachings by Arahant Thich Thong Lac to attain the truth. Now, I share with you, the wise, hoping to awaken and help you escape your mistakes and practice to attain the truth. Freeing our lives from suffering. Whether you, the wise man, attain enlightenment or not. It has nothing to do with me. However, the attainment of the noble sages is meaningful in clarifying the original Buddha's teachings that the elder transmitted to the people of the world. At the same time, the practice and attainment of the noble sages is a way to repay the kindness of the people who have nurtured the noble sages to practice. The noble monks who have attained enlightenment are the belief and source of motivation that helps people live happily in the spirit of humanistic ethics and cause and effect. Why are the noble practicers sticked? Because the wise use consciousness to practice. 1. What does that mean? Buddha taught that in the brain, each person has consciousness, matter aggregate, and perception, perception aggregate. Buddha taught that when we practice, we train our mind to live in a field of kindness, because our mind is living in the stream of greed. When we bring our mind to live in the field of goodness, we have mastered birth, aging, sickness, and death and escaped from being reborn as a suffering human being. However, the sage uses conscious practice to overcome the mind's thoughts and bring the mind back to living with consciousness, but the mind has not yet escaped from greed. Because, although the mind is brought back to live with consciousness, the mind is still filled with greed for awareness, knowledge, the victory of imagination, and pride. But the mind has not yet entered the field of goodness, that is to say, the mind is still filled with greed for knowledge. Therefore, the sage has not yet mastered birth, aging, sickness, and death, which means the sage still has to suffer from birth, aging, sickness, and death. The wise man uses his consciousness to practice, which is to suppress his mind without him knowing it. The wise man thought, "If I practice and overcome my thoughts and desires, I will be satisfied." It is clear that such practice is for self-satisfaction, not for liberation. 2. The wise man has not yet understood what greed means. Tam is greed. Desire is urge. Thus, greed is greed, desire caused by urge makes us endlessly, infatuatedly chase after to catch, to satisfy our body through two forms, material. These are things we need to satisfy our bodies, such as eating and drinking. At the same time, things also satisfy our spirits. For example, we eat well to make us happy, sex makes us ecstatic. B. Mentally, such as love, pride, deep thoughts, and attachment. At the same time, the mind also satisfies our body. For example, when we satisfy our pride, our body feels at peace. 3. For the true Buddha Dharma, whether good or evil, to satisfy consciousness and imagination, that is, to satisfy the desires of our body, is evil. Saving or killing people, both to satisfy our physical desires, are clearly evil. Abortion, killing newborn girls, war, killing, saving people, helping people. All are the same, all are to satisfy the desires of our body and knowledge. Therefore, according to the true Dharma, in social life there is no distinction between good and evil. But, we are borrowing a human body to practice in order to escape back to our own ego. More clearly, everyone must borrow a human body to practice, in order to return to the original. But we mistakenly believe that this body is us, is ours, is our ego. The fact that we practice to return to the original is known by Buddha. Buddha teaches us to practice. To make it easier to understand, to make it clear, I will give an example of real life in human society. These are people who live in depravity, become addicted to the habit, and cannot quit, even though they know they are wrong. For them, they accept living in an addictive habit. People on the outside felt sorry for their boring lives, so they decided to save them from social evils. To save them, we need the power of the government, working together with the masses, to both attract and rescue them from the chains of depravity, and to help them stabilize. Have jobs, and study to broaden their minds. Similarly, after attaining the truth of the Four Noble Truths, Buddha Shakyamuni realized that our lives are spent enjoying worldly pleasures, satisfying the body, just like maggots crawling around in a pile of stinking dung. Even humans, they also admit they are wrong. They live in lust, they eat, sleep, make love and defecate, just like animals. What difference is there? They know they are suffering, they want to get out, but don't know how. Out of compassion for our fellow human beings, Buddha taught us the practice of transcending the borrowed body, in order to return to the origin of our life. 4. Buddha taught that we are tied up in a life of greed, making us fascinated with no way out. Therefore, Buddha taught that we forget our duty to practice to return to the origin. I am suffering from greed. Therefore, we need to gradually reduce greed until it is completely eliminated, so that we will have extraordinary strength to overcome greed and return our body to dust. Reducing greed is gradually bringing our mind back to living in a field of kindness. 5. From then on, no matter what form of practice, as long as divorce, avoid evil law, growing goodness, do not hurt me, do not hurt people, and do not hurt living beings. Until greed is eliminated, we have attained the fruit of impermanence, transcended the body and returned to the origin of our life. 6. Having read this far, does the wise man see that he is practicing wrongly? The sage uses consciousness to control the body, to control the arising of thoughts, which is wrong, but the sage does not know. For example, Mr. Hike, Huineng, Master Van Han, former Emperor Tran Nan Tong. You use your consciousness and knowledge to keep your body pure. That person using consciousness to control is wrong, because that person has made us suffer. That is, they suppress the mind, they do it, they live in purity, that is, they overcome their thoughts, that is, they satisfy their conscious desires. They obviously feel great, but are wrong without knowing it. They enter meditation, which is contemplative meditation, which does not help in mastering birth, aging, sickness, death, and escaping from being reborn as a suffering human being. 7. The scripture clearly states, do not do evil, do good, meaning, abandon lust, abstain from evil, and increase good deeds. If you practice without abandoning desire, abandoning evil, and increasing good, your starting point is wrong, then it is clear that you have practiced wrongly. There are even many monks who practice very seriously, in solitude, eat one meal a day, no money in pocket. But those people made a mistake in choosing the scene. They were caught up in the world, in beautiful scenes, they were inspired to write poetry full of dreams, then they fell into evil ways, because any route that follows the world falls into evil. 8. Therefore, I advise the wise to practice using the Dharma as the principle of intention, practice the 6 basic methods, practice slowly and gradually until your mind becomes familiar. This period is very long, from 1 year to 10 years. Once the mind is familiar with the 6 basic dharmas, then decide to enter the holy stream continuously. Continuously means without interruption, practice from 1 month to 12 months to attain enlightenment. 9. Remember, when practicing, you no longer need to know about Buddhist knowledge. If one still pays attention to Buddhist knowledge, one will fall into the situation of satisfying one's greed for knowledge. Failed, Ananda had to practice the one-night asceticism, erase his knowledge of Buddhism, and then attain enlightenment. 10. I don't need you to believe, you just need to try practicing on your body. In just 1 week you will see the results immediately. For example, you will feel a wonderful change in your personality, from one person, coarse, pride, arrogant, self-sufficient, complacent. I hate myself, but now, we become gentle, we have begun to love ourselves. Note: Dear Buddhists, I respectfully pay homage to Master Thong Lak. Above is the Dharma talk that Master Tan Tien exclusively shares with all true practitioners. Besides monks who deceive people for fame and profit, there are also monks who are no longer greedy for fame and profit. But because they have not been fortunate enough to meet a wise teacher, they are still stuck in their practice. Therefore, Buddhists need to help them self-awaken and correct their mistakes so that they can be lucky enough to attain enlightenment. Their enlightenment is very necessary for the common people and for Buddhists themselves, because it is faith, it is the motivation that encourages Buddhists to practice diligently, to free ourselves from suffering in life. By the way, Buddhists, please copy the above Dharma talk and hand it to the true practitioners with affinity that you know. Best regards.